You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
So it's not even going to get into the 50s. So make note of that, because what that means is that by about 4 o'clock, when that sun starts sliding down, it'll be cold again. By 6 o'clock, it'll be back in the 30s. So prepare accordingly. And for Tuscaloosa Academy, they play the 3 o'clock game in the Class 2A state championship over at Protective Stadium in Birmingham against Reeltown. So they'll be in pretty good shape. That's good football weather. It'll be, still be some sunshine at 3. Of course, the team's playing the 11 o'clock game. That's the ideal time. And then the 7 o'clock game tonight will be cold. It'll be a cold one. But a great day to be with you here on the TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show. We wrapped up the college football season, the regular season, other than Army-Navy. And, of course, the conference championship games are tomorrow and tomorrow night. But no Bama football trivia this week, and no point spreads, SEC point spread predictions this week. But we do have a great show on tap. I'll run it down for you in just a second. First, though, I need to tell you about Alabama Credit Union, and they're in the Christmas spirit. You can feel the joy. Skip the payment. Enjoy extra cash this season with our holiday Skip-a-Pay. It's one of the many features that you have if you're a member of Alabama Credit Union. We make skipping your loan payment easy. Save time and money by skipping your payment online without having to drive to your local branch. Skip-a-Pay allows you to skip your Alabama Credit Union auto or consumer loan payment every 6 months so you can keep the cash for other goals. Find out more at Alabama Credit Union. That's alabamacu.com. alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money and put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, here's my lineup for today at 9:30. Excited to get Brett Norsworthy on. Brett is from the Ole Miss Radio Network. His nickname is Stats because he's one of those guys that he can rattle it all for you. And based out of Memphis, as I said, with Ole Miss Radio Network, but he knows the SEC in and out. He is a guy that really knows his stuff, and I've known him for a while. I've been meaning to get him on, and can't wait to get him on this morning to talk SEC football, college football playoff, and more. He's just does a great job. So I think you'll enjoy listening to him. He's a alum of the University of Arkansas, but one of his most revered sports heroes is the late Coach Paul Bear Bryant. So he's got strong vibes on Alabama and, of course, works for Ole Miss. So that'll be a great guest at 9:30. Then at 10:30, it's the Auburn Report with Brett Pritchard. And we'll also talk with Brett about the Super 7 state championship games as he's part of the AHSAA radio network and calling the games. So he'll be with us at 10:30 to break down Auburn football and basketball, but also high school football. And I'll run down those scores for you from last night as well here in just a little bit. It was a really good day of action yesterday. We crowned 3 more champions. Of course, on Wednesday night, Hoover beat Central Phoenix City to win the 7A state championship game. And we came back with 3 more games yesterday. And, of course, we will have 3 more games today. Yesterday's action in Class 5A, it was Montgomery Catholic going back-to-back with a late field goal to beat Moody, 17-14. This was a 14-0 game at the half, Montgomery Catholic, but Moody came back and tied it up in the second half before falling on a 23-yard field goal with 3:21 remaining. The Knights get the victory and get that state championship. In Class 1A, it was Wadley, which has just had a phenomenal year. They have been just incredible. They go undefeated, run the table, win them all, and they picked up the victory. I'm trying to find all my box scores here because there was an interesting stat from the 1A game, and well, let me go ahead and tell you about the 3A game because I got it pulled up. Mars Hill Bible beat Houston Academy in a wild one, 50-43 in Class 3A, 93 points scored in that one. And in the 1A game, it was Wadley winning. I'm going to get this. I'm going to do it while I'm on a mission now to get it all pulled up. I should have had it all ready to go. Hang on. We're going to get this thing done. Because I want to tell you about this kid that's running back and defensive player for Wadley. Yeah, they beat Maplesville. Maplesville has a great tradition in small school, high school football. But Wadley had a phenomenal year. 37-7 was the final as they finished off an undefeated season. But here's the story, because I mentioned this on my sportscast last night, and I wrote it down. I put it in my phone. And I can't find anything this morning. It's just one of those days. It's just unbelievable. Here it is. All right. Jaquez Wilkes is a running back. Derrick Henry vibes. 6'4", 222 pounds. He ran for 312 yards and 5 touchdowns in that game. He also plays defense. He's a junior. But I'm going to find out more about Jaquez Wilkes, because when you're 6'4", 222 and you play running back and you go for 300-plus yards and 5 touchdowns, I'm getting serious Derrick Henry vibes here, Chase. I really am. So that's just that's amazing numbers. And he had a year like that. They scored like 60 points a game. And what a phenomenal game. So I'm going to keep an eye. Certainly going to keep an eye on him. All right, as for the schedule today, we'll wrap it up with 3 more games. Yesterday, as I said, we did 3A, we did 1A, and we did 5A. And then today we're going to do 2A, 4A, and 6A. And the 4A championship game is at 11, Jackson versus Cherokee County. 2A championship, as I mentioned, at 3, TA versus Reeltown. And then 6A tonight in Birmingham, Parker, playing not far from their high school, will take on Saraland at 7 p.m. So that should be a great game. Also, today we'll run down all the conference championship games for you coming up on Saturday and Saturday night. We'll get into Bama basketball. We're going to get back to that Kalen DeBoer audio from Wednesday evening. We only played a little bit of a clip of his opening comments, but his press conference talking about recruiting, we're going to get to that as well. If you want to join the program, the number on the Pinnacle Park and North River hotline is 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is the number. And that's where Jim, who has kind of become our leadoff man here lately, Jim is leading us off again. Hey, good morning.
Hey, did you say you watched that game last night, Catholic against Moody?
Yeah, I watched some of it. I had the highlights on last night at 10 on my sportscast on TV, so I didn't get to watch it all, Jim, but I did keep an eye on it, yeah. Did you see the inadvertent whistle? No, call? I did not. Tell me about it.
Well, now, look, I don't have no dog in the fight, okay? But
right.
The Catholic looked like a better team, led most of the way 14-0.
Right.
But they're tied with about 7 minutes to go. It's 14-14, and Moody had done picked up, I think, like 3 first downs running the ball, and it had all the momentum. So it's 4th and 1 around midfield, and the quarterback, takes it. You can see him fumble it once. It looks like he got the yard. Well, it's hard to tell, because the ball comes out and it squirts a little bit, and another Moody player started to pick it up, and it goes forward even more, and a Moody player ended up jumping on about 10 yards, down the field, which would have been a first down for sure, So they moved the chains.
Mm-hmm.
They start to line up. So they moved, where they looked to see if it was the first down because they left the ball where it was fumbled at. Even though it was advanced twice, people trying to pick it up. So they look at that, and, signal first down. They move the chains. They start to line up, and then it's like, it's a timeout. The referees talk, and they say it was an inadvertent whistle, so they replay the ball to play, and they don't get the first down. But here's my complaint when people talk about bad officiating. Why wasn't the inadvertent whistle discussed before they moved the chains and started to let them line up again? It just makes me think like something's not up and up,
Wow. I didn't see it. Like I said, I just kind of was monitoring it, Jim. I wasn't watching it play by play like I would have been, if I hadn't been working. So I can't really answer that, but it does sound like it was a big factor in the game. It does sound like that.
Yeah, it's and I watched that game you're talking about, the 90 Houston Academy. LA's 35 points scored in the last 7.5 minutes in that game.
Yeah, just crazy. But,
yeah.
And then like I said, I'm just can't wait to research a little bit more about this big running back for Wadley, man. Like I said, I get serious Derrick Henry vibes when I'm talking about somebody at a little small school that's that big. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me say this. Okay, I saw some highlights, and I think I may know who you're talking about. Because he looked really tall.
Mm-hmm. He's 6'4".
And his number was 6. The guy I'm talking about.
Okay.
Now, I always say this. I ain't never seen him play before, and you can't tell much on TV. But my first impression was he's just a man out there playing with smaller kids,
mm-hmm.
and he runs upright like, of course, Henry does too. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, it was something I'm like thinking, okay, will he pan out as a running back in college?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I read a little bit about him last night. He may project more as a defensive player, but a lot of people said that about Henry too. That's one reason he wound up at Alabama. Most of those places wanted to move him to outside linebacker or edge rusher or tight end or something like that, and he wanted to stay in running back. So clearly he's a great athlete, and he's a junior, so we'll be hearing more about him. But I love the Super 7 state championships, and of course today for us, I'm paying particular attention to Tuscaloosa Academy trying to win it all this afternoon. So it'll be great.
Yeah, okay. You can watch it on
public TV.
On PBS.
Yeah.
And mine goes in and out, but you can pull up the app, PBS app, and what I'm doing is pulling it up on my phone and screen mirror to my 43-inch smart TV.
Well, that's the way to do it right there, my friend. That is the way to bring it to life. Hey, thank you, Jim. I got to get going.
All right, man.
Thanks, man. All right, it's 9:18, and we're going to get to our first break. Before we do, though, I do want to tell you about lunchtime is, coming up fast, and several places, as you know, that I support and they support me as far as restaurants in the area. And one of them is certainly Who's Q and Brew. Daily specials, open 7 days a week, and just a really fun place to go hang out and watch all the games, too, with the TVs. And Buzz Time Trivia right there off of Highway 82 in Tuscaloosa at the Northridge Center. Who's Q and Brew? Get by and check them out. Lunch specials, drink specials, dinner specials. They got it all at Who's Q and Brew in the Northridge Center. All right, we'll be back with more of your phone calls at 205-342-9904. Then Brett Norsworthy coming up at 9:30 here on the Gary Harris Show. You stay with us.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa Thread.
Good Friday morning at 3 this afternoon. Tuscaloosa Academy has an opportunity to bring home the 2A State High School Football Championship Trophy. The 12-2 Knights face perennial power 13-1 Reeltown at Protective Stadium in Birmingham. It's the next to the last game of 3 days of high school football competition. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It is absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch.
But it's only here for a limited time. Shop now at Dell.com/deals. That's Dell.com/deals.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans.
The real holiday magic. Go to BMW of Tuscaloosa before time runs out on these hot year-end offers. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions in both dining rooms, at the bar.
800-426-1886. 800-426-1886. That's 800-426-1886.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather cold and dry today. The sky sunny, the high 43. Another freeze tonight, clear with the low at 25. Tomorrow, partly to mostly sunny, the high 52. Clouds move in Sunday, a chance of rain by afternoon, the high 56. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 29 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 24, TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show. I'm going to run down all the college football that's coming up this weekend, beginning with tonight and tomorrow. And one thing I want to correct, though, as I said earlier this week, Army-Navy this weekend, that's incorrect. It's next Saturday the 13th. Army-Navy's always a week after the conference championship game. So, in fact, Army's got a big game tonight that we'll tell you about. But Army-Navy is next Saturday. I think I had said earlier this week that it was coming up this weekend, but no, it's next Saturday, and what a special game that is. Right now, we're going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and talk to the Cowboy. Hey, Cowboy.
Hey, Gary. I was looking at on AL.com last night of pictures, and they had a picture of that Wadley guy. I said, dadgum, that's a War Daddy-looking player there that you're talking about. I didn't realize how many yards he had, but shoot, I tell you what, somebody ought to investigate that player.
Well, I tell you what, I was a little bit familiar with him because they played Barry Fayette in the playoffs. Barry Fayette's a good team. And they were, and Wadley went up there to Barry and put a whipping on him in the playoffs. And so I heard about him then. And then after this performance yesterday, I immediately called Rodney Orr and said, hey, I want you to check this kid out, because I said, I think he's going to be, he's only a junior. And then I did a little bit of reading on him. And he is going to be, I think, recruited, maybe as a defensive player, but, that's what a lot of people said about Derrick Henry. But you're right, man. He is and he's from a little small school, just like Henry was in Yulee, Florida. This is Wadley, Alabama. And, but Jaquez Wilkes is a name to watch, because I'm with you. Yeah. He's an impressive physical specimen. And, it happened. What I've always said, Cowboy, and I know you follow recruiting, I remember saying this about Anthony Bryant at Sunshine High School before Sunshine went away.
Bear Bryant. Yeah.
And, he was such an imposing physical specimen. And they said, but look who he plays against and all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you this, if you can play, you can play. Yeah, you'd rather see these kind of players against, better competition, I guess, or bigger schools. But if you're, 6'4" and 222 is 6'4" and 222, whether you're playing at a 1A school or a 6A school. And you're right, he's an impressive physical specimen. I called Rodney and I said, man, you better check this guy out and find out what the scoop is on him, because he looks like he's a tank. Yeah.
Well, Wadley's over kind of your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's over there in East Alabama. That whole area, kind of south of that Cleveland County, Calhoun area, but down Wadley, Wadowee, Roanoke, all that area, man. So they love their football over there. I guarantee you that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I bet Rich Rod knows about it. What do you think Jack State would do if Rich Rod leaves?
Well, I think they'd get another good coach. I think Jacksonville State's a good program. I mean, they've been able to get some, add on to their facilities, and they've got a passionate fan base in a good area of the country to recruit. Beautiful campus. tremendous stadium. So it would be a setback because he's done a tremendous job there. But I think they could attract a good coach now. I'll tell you that.
Well, they're playing tonight on CBS Sports Network. I know that's going to compete against these high school ball games. But,
yeah, they got Western Kentucky tonight, and like I said, I'll get to the schedule. We got 3 games tonight. I've told you before, I wish they would leave the high schools Friday night to the high schools, but the biggest thing I've got now, and I've been saying this, and the AHSA doesn't care what I think, but we've got the basketball overlap to the point where they've been playing basketball for a month, and we hadn't even wrapped up high school football yet. In a team like Tuscaloosa Academy, they basically had to either postpone or cancel all their high school basketball games because they have so many of their football players that play high school. That's not any good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that brings up another thing. I don't live in Alabama anymore, but out here in Texas, they do such a great job with the final games. They have them at Jerry World. And I was looking in the stands yesterday. I mean, it just looked bare. Nobody there, hardly. I guess they were end zone shots. Maybe the sideline.
No, they've had some good. They had a good crowd for the 7A game on. But you got to remember that this is high school football, and it's a 40-something thousand seat stadium. Now it's not nearly as big as Jordan-Hare and Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, but and you got to remember like the 1A game with Wadley and Maplesville. Those are 2 really football-centric communities, but they're little small communities, Cowboy. I mean, if you bring 1,000 or 1,500 fans from each one of those schools, let's say you got 3,000 fans. That's quite a few fans for a little small community like that, but you put them in a big stadium like that, and it just doesn't look like much. Now, the Parker and Saraland game tonight at 7 o'clock, there'll be a good crowd for that one.
Yeah. Well, maybe the smaller schools, the smaller level schools, they could play like they could play that game, say, at Livingston, West Alabama Stadium.
No. I don't want to hear. No, I like them all being at the same place. I would. They're looking at South Alabama. They're looking at Alabama State. I would like to see them play them all in Birmingham. I think Protective is a great facility. It's centrally located. I like the way they do it. I like playing, the 7 games in 3 days. You play the 7A game on Wednesday because they don't play the week before because they only have 32 teams. I like the way they do it.
That's a contention. That 7A game should be on a Saturday because you could get a better crowd.
Well, the problem with putting it on a Saturday, you go up against the SEC championship game. And that's no good, if Alabama or Auburn are playing in that game.
Well, maybe they need to do it like Texas. Get it there's still 3 more weeks out
here.
No,
that's what I've been saying. That's what I was saying about the overlap. If they push the season back some, you could avoid some of this. But, they wrap up, they start football in August when it's 100 degrees. They wrap it up at the end of October. If you don't go to the playoffs, you don't even really get a cold weather game. And they start basketball up in early November. And it's over by the end of February, first weekend in March, and then baseball is over. That's what I'd like to see is push the calendar back. But I've said that before, and they do it the way they do it. They don't really care. But I like having all the games at one venue.
Yeah. Who's the executive director of the AHSAA now? I know Briggs in it. He's gone. It was Savarese. He retired. Who's in charge?
Yeah, it's Garmin.
Oh, it's the Oxford principal.
Yeah, Garmin's his name. Is it Heath Garmin? Is it Heath Garmin? Let me look it up.
Like
Heath Harmon. He is.
They went back to Dan Washburn way.
Yeah. He came out of the administrative aspect had been a principal at Oxford High School, and I think he was a coach at one time. I'd have to do the background, but hey, listen, I got Brett Norsworthy coming up in the second segment. I got to go. All right, thanks. We'll be back with Brett Norsworthy from the Ole Miss Radio Network next here on the Gary Harris Show.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure
it right now with your free insurance benefits check and see your eligibility for coverage in minutes at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.
The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Gary Harris Show. The TGIF edition rolls on, and we're going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline and welcome in Brett Norsworthy to the show. Longtime member of the Ole Miss Radio Network, Arkansas grad, huge fan of Bear Bryant. So Brett's kind of got the SEC covered. His nickname is Stats because he can spit them out for you. So we're glad to have Brett on ahead of these conference championship games and college football playoff announcement on Sunday. Good morning, Brett. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well, Gary. Thank you so much for having me. And also add in that introduction, a huge lover of Coach Nick Saban and what the Crimson Tide has done with Coach Bryant and Coach Saban.
Yeah, it's amazing, and we'll dive into that as they try to keep it going with Kalen DeBoer. Let's start with Ole Miss, though, because as you know, we have some mutual friends, and I worked in the TV market in Mississippi in the early and mid-'90s and covered Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Southern Mississippi, but still have those Ole Miss friends. And I kind of got the impression going into the season that it was all in for Ole Miss. It's kind of what I was told. Hey, we're all in. This is our year. Everything's in alignment. We've got the coach. We've got the talent with the roster. The NIL's covered. It's kind of play off or bust. Well, it doesn't appear that the playoff's going to happen. Ole Miss has got a really good football team, but what's the vibe in Oxford with to have a team of that caliber and feel like you've got 12-team opportunity here, and it looks like now you're not going to make it in?
Well, Gary, we're heartbroken. We're devastated. It was all in. Now, one thing I would disagree with, I know that a lot of the sentiment and a lot of the expectations was go to the playoffs or bust. Well, that's half right. It was go to the playoffs. It's not or bust. The program is on really, really great footing with Coach Lane Kiffin, and he's going to start his 6th year next year at Ole Miss. And, Gary, frankly, who had that? Nobody on earth had Lane Kiffin starting year 6 at Ole Miss. And we got to keep on plugging. I equate it to what Mike Bianco did in baseball for Ole Miss baseball. He got ever so close for a lot of years. It felt like, it was never going to happen. And then out of nowhere came 2022 and the dog pile in Omaha and national champion. There's no need to quit now. It was not our bust, but it was expected, and it is very, very, very heartbreakingly disappointing that we're going to be left out. And I had readied myself for it really after the loss at Florida. You knew that probably Ole Miss wasn't going to be in, and frankly shouldn't be in. If you lose at home to Kentucky, you give away the game in overtime at Baton Rouge, and you lose to a good Florida team. But come on, we've seen 25 Florida teams better than this one, Gary. You and I have, and many other people as well. So you knew that was the fate. I had conditioned myself for it. And then, lo and behold, Tuesday night, that absolute imbecile, blithering idiot, the most least impressive person on a national stage of any prominence ever, Ward Emanuel, goes out there, and we've refigured the 12 teams. I was fine with being over at the SEC bad table with the 3 loss teams, with South Carolina and with Alabama. But then, lo and behold, Ward Emanuel says, out of the thin blue sky, we've actually done our job and compared these schedules and who these people played, and Alabama should be ahead of Miami. I agree with that. I'm not taking exception with Alabama getting their slot. Here's what I want. I want a further examination of The Ohio State University, because I saw Georgia drop 9 spots after losing at ranked Ole Miss, and I see Ohio State lose at home as a 20-point favorite to a team that had a quarterback pass for 62 yards, and they dropped 4 spots.
Yeah, that's the head scratcher in this, and you've opened up the can of worms. It's a political process. I don't care what they say. There is, I'm sure that committee's meeting and they've got good intentions, but the reality of where we're at in college football is coming into play with this, Brett. You know it and I know it. The Big Ten's getting 4 teams in, and you're right. For all the meltdown about what happened to Alabama at Oklahoma, or what happened to with Ole Miss at home against Kentucky, or at Florida, or what happened with some of these other teams, that was an embarrassing loss by The Ohio State University. You're right. There's no penance to pay at all, it seems. But,
None. None. It's going to be rewarded with a home game. Yeah. Tennessee fans should be irate that they're not in that spot to be hosting at Neyland Stadium over The Ohio State. I feel very much like it was a back-scratching deal. I feel like I don't have any proof of this. This is all speculation, but I think it's warranted. I think the Big Ten and the SEC got together and Greg Sankey told Hunter Yurachek, the Arkansas AD, that's still mad that he didn't get Lane Kiffin and he got stuck with Sam Pittman, and still mad over 63-31, and still mad over Chris Beard turning them down for basketball, and still mad that they market and advertise Omaha, and they ain't had a dog pile yet in Omaha, and hadn't won Jack in Omaha, and still market as Omaha. I think that Sankey told Yurachek, you get in there and fight for Alabama, and we'll give Ohio State the home game. Hunter Yurachek is a lot of the blame of this for Ole Miss people, and Ole Miss people should be irate. There's no way Hunter Yurachek could go back to his money people, to his bosses, to his boosters, and say, yeah, I got in that room, and I fought like hell for Ole Miss.
Wow. Brett Norsworthy with us from the Ole Miss Radio Network. Yeah, let's get back to Alabama and this whole process. And again, because you and I think we both agree that, this is, at the end of the day, it isn't about getting the 12 best teams or even the 12 best records. It's about taking care of certain conferences. And for the SEC, I said last week I thought Alabama would be ahead of South Carolina, ahead of Ole Miss, ahead of Miami for one reason. If Sankey if the Big Ten's getting 4 teams in and the SEC doesn't, there's going to be what to pay. I felt like, the SEC's getting 4 teams in, and when I looked at it, and I know there's a gnashing of teeth, but it's like the Yankees. It's like the Cowboys. It's like the Lakers. That's what Alabama's earned. And the reality of it is, Alabama was going to go ahead of South Carolina and Ole Miss, Brett. You and I both know it. And the SEC's getting 4 teams in, so I think Alabama is in regardless of what happens on Saturday.
I think so too, Gary. And let me state it again. I am not taking exception with Alabama being in at all. It is that brand. It is earned. When people talk about entitlement, you know what that means? That means you've got titles. You've got a trophy case. And Alabama is rightfully entitled. It's the best trophy case in all of sports. It's a brand right there with the New York Yankees and with Augusta National Golf Club, the Masters. It's one of the biggest sports brands, if not the biggest, in American sport, and well earned. I'm not taking it at all. Please, I want your listeners to know this. I'm not taking at all exception with Alabama. I'm taking exception with Hunter Yurachek not going in there and fighting for Ole Miss. And I also take exception, and I asked the commissioner about this at Media Days last year. Why did you ever agree to these slots, to these conference championship
I agree
slots,
to
this group of 5 slot? And he said he had to get a deal. Okay, well, fine. I think it should be 12 at-large teams, and then that committee, led by that imbecile Ward Manuel, should rank them 1 through 12 as they see fit. Because tomorrow morning, do you know what we're having happen in Dallas? At Jerry's World in Dallas tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we're going to have the Big 12 championship game, and the winner of Arizona State and Iowa State is going to be in these playoffs. What do you think they would do in the SEC? Maybe go 7-5?
Yeah, maybe 8-4 in the best case scenario. No, I'm with you, Brett. I'm the same way. Automatic. For one thing, it tilts the playoff. I mean, because again, you can have a conference champion that might be the 3rd or 4th best team in their conference, and if they automatically get, with Power 4 conference teams, automatically get a top 4 seed and a bye, right off the bat, the playoff is not what it's supposed to be. I'm with you. I hate the slots. I hate all the stuff that goes on with it, and that's why now I'm for a 16-team playoff. Believe it or not, I didn't even want to go. I wanted to go to 8, not 12. But the way it is all played out now, just bring them on. Let's go 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. You know what I mean?
Gary, I don't care if it's 92. I want meritocracy. I want the best 92. I don't want a slot for the little ragamuffin team from the little engine that could lead. I want the best in there, because we know every conference is not made up of the same competitive nature. We know some are better, just like we know some neighborhoods are better than others. Some golf courses are better than others. If I have a friend of mine that tells me, hey, I went to municipal golf course and I shot 72, I go, yeah, what would you shoot at Augusta National?
Great points. I'm with you. I would love to see the system rework, but it's not going to be, even if they go to 16, like you said, or 20. This is what's going to be in place. It's a political process as much as it is an objective one. I guess the good news is 3 lost teams now have an opportunity to get in, and, when last year, we wouldn't even be having this discussion for any of these teams. So I guess at the end of the day, it's kind of like all the stuff going on with NIL and the portal and everything else. It's like a boat on the surface of the ocean. It looks smooth, but underneath there's a tidal wave brewing. That's kind of where we're at with this. As long as the ratings are good, as long as people are talking about it, as long as the interest is high and all that's the case, people are willing to put up with it because it's a very flawed system, but it's working in regard to what they want to get out of it, right?
Gary, you nail it with the R word, with ratings. And on Sunday morning, when they release that bracket, they're not only releasing a bracket, they're releasing a month-long TV show that has to make money because college football has made the money. The ratings are overwhelming this year. But in all this, you talk about a 3-loss team, and Alabama's going to get in. And, again, let me repeat, I think Alabama is deserving to get in over Miami. And we'll go back next summer to more of these stories of when will the U be back. It's taken forever for the U to get back. But here's what is annoying. The South Carolina fans, and next year on November 1st, when South Carolina comes to Oxford, I hope Lane puts 80 up on Shane Beamer, on Buster Brown Beamer. And when he does it, I hope midfield is an awkward meeting for this reason. The South Carolina fans, I think they thought football season started on Halloween.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out too. I mean, it's like all of a sudden because we're the quote unquote the hottest team, and we wanted Clemson. Well, it's a 12-game season. It's a complete body of work, and the best one was North Sellers didn't play the second half against LSU. Okay, what? I mean, other teams haven't had injuries. Other teams haven't had.
Trey Harris, the best wide receiver in the country,
didn't play for a few
half
games.
the game.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart got hurt on the third play of the game against Georgia, and his ankle's the size of a canned ham. Don't tell me about injury. It's football. People get run into and get hurt in football. Lenore Sellers played against Ole Miss, and he put up 3 points. Ole Miss played the cheerleaders in the fourth quarter and won by 24.
And Alabama beat that team too, head up. And I know they talk about, they came back and had a chance to win, and I give them credit. I mean, they got back in the game, but they didn't win the game.
But they didn't win the game. The object of the sport is more points on the scoreboard, and you play the season how it falls. And yes, the beginning of the year matters as much as the end of the year. And I think one thing that has really helped Alabama, even though they ended up 5-7, but on the day that they beat Wisconsin, I think that got people's attention, and it got people's attention that Jalen Milroe could have a big year. And going into the playoffs, and I'd love to come back and talk with you about how the playoffs will break down. I think as Jalen Milroe goes, Alabama will go. If he has a big playoff, Alabama can win this dang thing.
Yeah, no doubt. When he's good, he's I think how it is. Ole Miss, Alabama, whatever the school, your fans always are hypercritical and they find the flaws. And boy, believe me, they can find them with Milroe. But if you're an opposing defensive coordinator, he scares you to death, Brett. You know that. I mean, trying to prepare for that guy. And if you get the best case Jalen Milroe and that offense is clicking, they can be a load. But you know what? You look at this season, and whether it's Alabama, whether it's South Carolina, whether it's Ole Miss, even Georgia, even Texas, when Georgia came in there and rolled them, it's easy to look. I've asked our mutual friend Brett Brewer many times, what happened with that Kentucky game? But it's college football. It's the SEC. And what happened with Alabama at Vanderbilt? I mean, you wish you could go back and have a redo, but you can't. You got to be better on that particular day. And in this league, if you're not, if you don't play your best, these teams can beat you.
There's no take twos. I love South Carolina. If we played right now, well, that's not how it's ever been done. We don't, open the stadium, chalk the field. Let's play right now, this very second.
You got to beat them when you play them. I've always said that. That's what I always admire about Gene Stallings. He might have not been the most flamboyant, but, he knew one thing. They'd say, well, could you have beaten Tennessee today? They didn't play Tennessee. You got to beat who you play that day. And and that's the key to the drill. Be good enough to win that game you're playing that Saturday, and then 2 weeks down the road when you play somebody else, you worry about them. But that's the nature of this league. Overall, Brett, because we're getting short on time here, I mentioned the NIL. I mentioned the portal, all the changes. Wimp and Barry were talking about on their show. They had a caller this morning that just 5 years ago was completely different. And they're right. You go back to 2019 and you look at now. I keep hearing, well, there's got to be some regulations put in place. I always say, some people call me and say, well, somebody's got to do something. Well, I'm like, who's somebody and what are they going to do? I contend that as long as the results, and we're talking about it with the ratings, with the interest, nobody wants to upset the apple cart. It's like we know this stuff is simmering, and at some point it could blow up on us. But I don't see anybody rushing in to change anything right now. Do you?
No, and for one reason, they don't want all the ambulance chasing trial lawyers like Tom Mars suing them every time they put a postage stamp on an envelope wrong. But no, I want player liberation and freedom. And player liberation and freedom has no guardrails.
That's right. You're right. You can't have it both ways.
But I mean, it's almost like, we want to pay you, but we're going to decide how much we're going to pay you. That's not the free and open market. And I kind of like the strong survives in this, Gary. I don't mind at all. You mentioned Coach Gene Stallings, and I got to get in one of my favorite quotes he'd always say. He goes, I thought the fun was in the winning.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Dabo's lifted that one from him, too.
He sure has. And Dabo is very much a Coach Stallings protege and devotee.
Where do you think Ole Miss winds up bowl game-wise?
It's all over the place. We could end up Gator. There's even some thoughts of maybe in Memphis at the Liberty, maybe to Nashville. It's all over the place. But I think with Alabama now in the playoffs, that'll move everybody up a peg. And I think Ole Miss will end up in Florida. I can't blame the Florida Bulls for maybe wanting South Carolina over Ole Miss, because South Carolina is very pleased with their 9-3. And we're crying ourselves to sleep at night over 9-3.
That's right. Brett Norsworthy with us for just a couple more minutes. SEC ACC basketball challenge, 14-2 SEC. I know I will give Commissioner Sankey a lot of credit for this. He said a few years ago, we're going to fix this basketball-wise. They brought in somebody to get on top of it, and you go 14-2, and the two losses were by the two highest-ranked teams, Auburn to Duke and Kentucky at Clemson. But what did you make of that 14-2 beat down the SEC put on the ACC in men's basketball?
It was impressive, and Ole Miss got the win at Louisville, and I think Ole Miss can have a good year this year. I'm seeing now some of these very early mock brackets, as many as 12 from the SEC, and all that matters is winning it all. And March, this is fun, and Gary, I don't mean this at all to kind of be snotty towards you, but it's basketball. I'm a football guy. I worry about basketball on Selection Sunday.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to get that dig in there at the ACC with the deal. All right, one final thought on Ole Miss football, since you're my Ole Miss go-to guy. Ole Miss didn't make the playoff, but I'm with you. The program's healthy right now. Kiffin seems to have settled in. Is the feeling there that because I know back during the season it looked like Napier might not make it and Florida might make a push. You feel good about Lane Kiffin long-term in Oxford?
I do, Gary. I really do. And coaches I have dealt with, whether it's been at Ole Miss or other places, I'll tell you, he's my very favorite ever. He's a guy's guy. He's a good guy. He's fun to be with. I think people misunderstand some of the Twitter some of the shade out there. But when it's time to get serious, he does. And as far as dealing with somebody, I have never dealt with a coach that treats me with as much respect as he has, friendly and available. Coach Kiffin has been great to me. It has been the most fun 5 years of my 17 years with Ole Miss, and you give me Lane Kiffin any day of the week over that dang Hugh Freeze.
I hear you, and I don't disagree with you at all. And you're right about him. The Twitter, and I don't know who helps him with that. He's so quirky and so it's fun, really. But he's a real serious guy when it's time to be serious. That's what you're kind of pointing out. When it comes to football, he's a serious dude, right?
He really is. He gets locked in, and he's crushed too. But went right back to work. Had a good recruiting class. Going to get things going in NIL. And we know this about him. With Matt Corral and Jackson Dart, he made both of them better. He's going to make Austin Simmons or whoever's the Ole Miss quarterback in 2025 better. Ole Miss will be fine at quarterback. If you got a good quarterback, you got a shot. I'll tell you right now, Ole Miss will be pretty good next year.
All right, 30 seconds. You think Kalen DeBoer makes it long-term at Alabama?
Oh, yeah, I do. Let's remember the shoes he had to fill. We've lived this, Gary. We saw it with Ray Perkins and many after Coach Bryant. It took Coach Stallings to get it right. Kalen DeBoer is going to win. This was a tough transition for him. He's a really solid man, tough guy. He's going to win big time. Everybody just relax. Nick Saban, they don't come around like him every day.
And the aforementioned Hugh Freeze, does he make it long-term at Auburn?
No. He was lucky to survive this year, and next year he's really got to win, and you can just sell recruiting so long. No, he doesn't.
Brett, awesome, man. We're going to do this again. This won't be a one-time deal. Folks, you can find Brett on Twitter, or formerly Twitter, currently X, at Brett Norsworthy. And, of course, as part of the Ole Miss radio network. And, of course, you got your own show there in Memphis, right?
I sure do, 3 to 6 every day, starting year 34 after the new year.
Wow. Thanks, Brett.
You got it, Gary.
All right, 9:55. We'll take a timeout and come back and wrap up this first hour. That was fun. We'll be right back after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we're going to do Parlay Picks presented by Brian Harden Construction. We'll combine all the championship games. We'll take your phone calls. We'll talk to Lee Sterling. We'll talk to Brent Beard. And we're going to take your phone calls starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events.
Need parts now? O'ReillyAuto.com offers in-store pickup, same-day home delivery, or next-day home shipping. Get more parts your way at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Innovation. Experience the wow factor. Contact Shoot Masonry and Specialties at 205-887-3807 today and unleash your home's full potential.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy to discover better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
What a tune. Friday, I'm in love. It is Friday. And we got an hour number 2 coming up here on the Gary Harris Show. We're going to get it started with a phone call with Digger. You hold tight, Digger. We'll get to you in the second hour. Brett Pritchard with the Auburn Report at 10:30. Also, I didn't mean to ask Brett about Bob Holt, the longtime Arkansas Democrat Gazette sports writer, Arkansas beat writer, who passed away last weekend. He knew Bob really well, but he was the guy that if you ever watch Media Days, always asked the first question. And coaches loved the guy, and he was 65 years old. So our prayers and condolences with him and his family and his friends at this time. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the first hour. Hour number 2 is coming up. Gary Harris Show, more on the way.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles,
Here's Monty Bolaños.
The Lions are headed to the playoffs.
There it is. Fox the hold. Kick away. It is up and it is good. These Detroit Lions. You want to talk about grit. You want to talk about determination. You want to talk about resiliency. This team is all of those things.
You heard it all on the ticket. Lions Radio Network. They walk it off with a 35-yard field goal to beat the Packers 34-31. For the first time in franchise history, the Lions have won 11 games in a row. The Cavaliers are the first team to reach 20 wins after defeating the Nuggets 126-114, despite a triple-double from Nikola Jokic. Luka Doncic had his own triple-double as the Mavericks handed the Wizards their 16th straight loss of the season, coming out on top.
Right for you. And when you call, you'll actually talk to me. 205-800-8000. I've got this.
No representations made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather cold and dry today. The sky sunny, the high 43. Another freeze tonight, clear with the low at 25. Tomorrow, partly to mostly sunny, the high 52. Clouds move in Sunday, a chance of rain by afternoon, the high 56. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 30 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM, WTBC, the Tide 109 app. And, of course, we're streaming live at Tide109.com. And we're going to start this hour off with a phone call. Our pal Digger, he's often wrong, but he's never in doubt. I'll give him credit for that. Good morning, really? Digger. Chase liked that one. Chase, you like that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Hey,
this
Digger.
guy Brett? This guy Brett?
Yeah, Brett Northworthy. Stats Northworthy from the Ole Miss Radio Network.
I want to party with that dude. Problem is after a couple of beers, we're in a knockdown dragout.
Yeah.
What a mouthy one, man.
He's a good guy. He's a fun guy. All
right, let's talk. You know, he brought up the word meritocracy. You can't have it when you're playing 8 conference games. I don't give a flying flip what anybody says. If the rest of the country's doing 9 conference games and you're only doing 8, okay, week 11, week 10, Mercer, come on, play that 9th conference game. We wouldn't be having this conversation, okay? Everybody's playing everybody. It's more round robin. You're facing the barrel every weekend, and for some reason, SEC's got a problem with it. Meritocracy. Brett needs to rethink this whole thing. I'm being dead serious. I mean, come on. You know what would happen if you were to play another conference game. Half of the conference would have another loss.
Well,
okay, whether it's Ole Miss or Alabama.
Yeah, that's what the math, or maybe Texas.
That's true. Now, keep this in mind. Y'all keep griping about our schedule. First of all, we didn't set it up, and you put it out there that CDC went to the office in Birmingham and said, "Hey, pick me up a good schedule."
No, I actually said he might have. I actually said he was in the room with the schedule makers when it was happening. That's what I said.
Right. Okay, come on. Now, the point I'm trying to make is, what does Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, Tennessee all have in common? Do you know?
Well,
let me help you out with it.
Well, go ahead. They play the SEC. Go ahead.
They all lost to the team Texas beat.
Oh, Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Or
taking care of business is the bottom line.
No, and listen, and I will give you your due. Absolutely. Texas is playing for the SEC championship tomorrow with good reason. Just one loss, and give Georgia credit too for fighting through and getting there. And I was hoping it was going to be Alabama and Texas, but Alabama did not take care of business in Norman, and that's the way it is. So, listen, you probably listened to me long enough, Digger. You don't agree with everything I say, but you know I hold the SEC championship in high esteem. I do. Now, in the modern playoff world, I'm not sure playing these conference championship games is the best way to go, but at the same time, to win a conference championship is a big deal in the SEC, and if Texas were to do it in their first year, that would be something to be proud of, obviously. And plus, you guys get an opportunity for payback against Georgia.
I would like that.
I know you would.
I would like that. We played our worst game. They played their best, and I'm telling you, I think all I'm asking for in this one, come on, the first year, if you win it, that would be a coup. But if we don't, fine, we're in the playoffs. That's right. We'll take it. But the bottom line is that all of these people belly aching about who deserves to get in the playoff, there is a word called underachieving. When you lose to Oklahoma, now I'm not going to excuse that. Promise you, Gary, Oklahoma's a renegade program. You cannot, I repeat, cannot take them lightly.
No way. No way.
And I guess you found that out. Okay. Don't worry, you'll have payback, but I promise you, Oklahoma is the same way in basketball, and they're the same way in baseball. They'll find a way to stick it in your eye, and you got to figure out a way to get around that. But I'll let you go. Just letting you know.
Well, thank you, Digger. Good phone call. Digger with some good points this morning. And, Alabama did not take Oklahoma lightly. I promise you that. They just got beat. And as I've said, Oklahoma's a proud program, championship tradition. Did not have their best year, but they had a bye week. They were ready to go, and they stuck it to Alabama, kind of like Digger just said. He thought Georgia played their best game and Texas played their worst game. Well, I kind of feel like Oklahoma played their best game and Alabama played their worst game. But it counts on the scoreboard. The game, the loss that still bothers me more. And I was disappointed they lost to Tennessee. I thought Alabama should have won that game. But Tennessee's a really good team. They're going to be in the playoff. Oklahoma's got a proud tradition. Losing in Nashville to Vanderbilt, even though Vanderbilt's better this year, and I give them credit for that, that's got to stick in your craw. I mean, you were number one in the country, and you've got 75% of the fans are your fans. It's like a home game. And that to me is still just that's the game. I don't think the team took the opponent seriously. I don't think they respected Vanderbilt. I don't think that the players got themselves in the mindset of we have to play our best to beat this team. I think the mindset was, well, we're Alabama. We haven't lost this program in 40 years. We're going to show up and we're going to take care of business. And it didn't happen. And at the end of the day, and again, Vanderbilt's 6-6 and going to a bowl game. I give them a lot of credit. They've had a solid year for their program. But Alabama shouldn't have lost to the Vanderbilt Commodores. Really probably shouldn't have lost to Oklahoma either. But that Vanderbilt game is the one that sticks in my craw. All right, I said I'd run it down for this weekend. Tonight, we've got 3 college football games. We've got Western Kentucky at Jacksonville State at 6 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. Jacksonville State is a 4.5-point favorite. They've had another really good year. The over-under is 58.5. UNLV at Boise State. Conference championship game, 7 o'clock on Fox. Boise is a 4-point favorite. UNLV is pretty good now. You would not want, I think from just the standpoint of the apple cart being in order, probably better for Boise State to win that game, because even if they lose, there'll be some people yapping about they should get in, which they won't, but that UNLV win could mess some things up. Tulane at Army tonight at 7 o'clock. Tulane is a 5-point favorite. And going to probably be cold up there in West Point tonight for that one. That one's on ABC, by the way. And then on Saturday, more conference championship games. Iowa State and Arizona State. For the Big 12, they'll play that one at AT&T Stadium in Arlington. Arizona State is a 1.5-point favorite. Ohio at Miami of Ohio, playing that one at Ford Field in Detroit, although it is listed as a Miami home game, Miami-Ohio home game for that conference championship in the MAC. 11 a.m. on ESPN. That Iowa State-Arizona State game is also 11 a.m. on ABC. Then the big one, Georgia at Texas, 3 o'clock on ABC, SEC championship game, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Texas, 2.5-point favorite. I still wish Alabama was in that game. Marshall and Louisiana play at Cajun Field in Lafayette, 6:30 p.m. Louisiana's a 6-point favorite. Penn State and Oregon in the Big Ten championship game at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, 7 o'clock on CBS. Oregon's a 3.5-point favorite. And Clemson and SMU in the ACC championship game, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, 7 p.m. on ABC. SMU's a 2.5-point favorite. And as we've talked about, just to keep things simple, it's much better for Alabama if SMU wins that game. So that is the schedule for tonight and tomorrow, conference championship weekend. And as I said, next Saturday, Army and Navy. All right, it's 10:13 here on the Gary Harris Show. And the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, what a terrific facility. What a great community of people, terrific staff, personal trainers that are top-notch, fitness classes, Silver Sneakers program for seniors. They've got it all. They've got everything you need other than just you getting down to the Y and starting to put in the effort. The Y is ready when you're ready for the Y. I've been saying this, and I need to remind myself of this too, Chase. Don't wait until January. Yeah, go ahead and eat and enjoy, but get some workouts in too. It'll give you a head start when everybody piles in the gym in January with those New Year's resolution. They'll be over there huffing and puffing on that treadmill. And you'll be like, I got this because I paid the price. In December, I was in here a month earlier than you, so I'm feeling good. The YMCA of Tuscaloosa, 2300 13th Street downtown, ymcatuscaloosa.org, or give them a call, 205-345-9622. All right, we're wide open for phone calls in the next segment. Also,
a free insurance benefits check and see your eligibility for coverage in minutes at TryLifeMD.com. That's TryLifeMD.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather cold and dry today. The sky sunny, the high 43. Another freeze tonight, clear with the low at 25. Tomorrow, partly to mostly sunny, the high 52. Clouds move in Sunday, a chance of rain by afternoon, the high 56. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 30 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Catch every game and every moment right here. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back in to the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld. 205-342-9904. All right. Yesterday we played Coach Kalen DeBoer, just his opening comments on recruiting and the signing day class. Alabama signed 21 players on Wednesday. Doesn't mean they won't add some more, but 21. It's a consensus top 5 recruiting class, really top 3 by most of the services. But we're going to get back to Coach DeBoer and let him pass along his thoughts for you on Alabama football recruiting class this year.
Go to Nick on the front right. Yeah, Justin Hill, getting him out of Ohio. And first off, what does he bring? And also Christian's efforts to get him from, essentially 90 minutes from Columbus.
Yeah, this guy is I'm going to say that about a lot of these guys, but Justin Hill is a special player. This is a place that he and his family love, first of all. So there was a little special connection that way. They love Alabama football. But just from athleticism, explosiveness, playmaking standpoint, you can see his film and you can see what we see and how special he is. But then you dive in deeper and you find out that this guy is someone who is just passionate about being a great teammate, being a great leader. He cares about what it feels like. He just, I think his season coming to an end, and I can remember it vividly, about that impact that it had on him and how, he knew he's going to go play football, but there's a lot of teammates that weren't, and how bad he felt, and that just says a lot about the character. He's an extremely hard worker, and so we're excited about what he's going to bring from a dynamic standpoint to the Wolf position. And Christian Robinson did an amazing job along with the rest of our staff, but Christian Robinson really heading that up in his recruitment. The relationship is extremely tight, but I think it's the vision of our defense combined with what he does. That's a great fit for us, and who he is as well, as I explained.
Second round of build to Tony.
Oh, sorry. You're a big quarterback guy. What did you see in Keelan that kind of made you pursue him so hard, and what should we expect in him?
Keelan is it's really cool when you think about the recruiting process with him, because I just continue to think of it as there's eyes that we have and feelings that we have when you watch the film. That are one thing and it jumps out at you, but I think there's other details that we saw on the film that when we saw him in person were verified when the coaching staff went out in the spring to see him, and it's like, wow, this guy is what we think, and these little nuances that we think are special definitely are. And you can see that then as the summer went along, everyone else started to see that as well, and now you see the production this fall. It's on another level, and then there's the leadership piece and the personality. There's a swagger about him. There's a confidence about him. He's helped become a major part of bringing and keeping this class together, which is what you'd want out of any leader, especially these key guys, but especially your quarterback. And so he's just having a great championship run there with his high school, and so excited about what he brings, and he's got the arm talent, just accurate, can throw with different arm slots and all that kind of stuff, and then also just the ability as an athlete to make plays with his feet too, just an added dimension there.
Let's go to Charlie on the far right.
You mentioned defensive backs and kind of replenishing that group. Just what do you think of the three guys you're bringing in, 2 corners and 1 safety?
Yeah, I love them. I know everyone does at this time, but I just really, you hone in on some guys, and these are the guys. These are the guys that were, priorities from the beginning, had a relationship with like a Dijon Lee, going back probably at least 2 years. I can't remember exactly when, but going back 2 years. And just going through this journey with him, and now really a new journey, beginning, just length. He's brought a physicality on another level, a confidence on another level. He's got that Chuck coming from a great program, and Chuck actually came here to a camp before we were here, and so there was some familiarity with him in Alabama. But also we were well aware of who he was, and guys who have an attack mindset there. And then at safety with Ivan, that was one where we just stayed the course with the relationship building, and really felt in our heart that this was a great fit for him, and just trying to stay with him, continue to grow, and then him really seeing it too, that the meshing of what he wanted, what he was looking for, and what we were, just a great fit. And these are just extremely high character guys that they get after it. And so excited about what they're all going to do together to add to the group of guys that we have in our program. And again, that's a position that was short in numbers this year. They held it together throughout the year in different ways, and I'm proud of that group, and these guys are going to come in and really add to it.
Keeping it on the right side, we'll go to Kennington.
This being your first cycle with Alabama, how did you find in-state recruiting this first year, and how's the relationship process going between yourself, the staff, and the state?
Yeah, I think, and just, it's no secret, right? There's some West Coast guys here that we're already talking about. Those were, to me, relationships is where it starts. And the relationships are with those players. The identification, of course, is a part of it, and ID and evaluation. But the relationship piece is important. And, these kids, their high school coaches know who I am, know who much of our staff were. That helped get the ball rolling with those guys. I think, as we continue to emphasize and really focus on the relationships we're building in state and in the region as well, but in state was the question, which I'm extremely excited about, and know that every year we'll continue to just grow, build trust. I think the season that we went through will only continue to help these in-state high school coaches, believe in us, and that the tradition will continue, and that I think that's just part of it, and I think that's the whole Southeast region as a whole, as well. And we're behind. When you look at coming in January, and really, there were staff we were still hiring at the end of February, and so the spring recruiting was really about just getting as many high school guys on campus as we could. We were pretty much bringing in anyone that wanted to come that was at a line or close to the line or above, and wanting just to share the message, show the vision, and get all that out there. So there were some high school coaches that we got to really get to see, maybe a few in January. The last week, myself and a couple of the other coaches, it continued in the spring, and now, this next, in January, that will continue on, and there's added elements of coaches clinics and opportunities to get out here and there. But, one change with not being able to be on the road in December, at any level, does hold you back from building those relationships. So we got to be creative, and we got to be open to any opportunities to continue to build those relationships and that trust.
All right, let's go to Joe, front row here.
Coach, one of the first guys that you brought in after you were hired was Jackson Lloyd on a visit. What did you see? What about Jackson Lloyd that made you thought he was a good fit for the program? And specifically, what about his multi-sport ability makes you just excited about his prospects as a player?
Yeah, I remember seeing Jackson for the first time at a camp a few years back. And, just to really be really blunt, you see his size, so you're taking note, and you flip on the film. That's one thing. You can see his athleticism, but you look at basketball, baseball, football, the guy is an athlete. And so you got this big body, you got this athlete, and then you got a mindset. I don't know if there's ever been a time where I haven't talked to him. I know there is, but where I haven't either called him or he's texted me and I've texted back, and what are you doing? And it involves a workout that you just finished that you're heading to. And so, you just love that about him, that he just loves the grind. He loves just sport in general and all the things he's done, being a part of different athletic teams, the different sports. Just really, that coordination is there, the footwork's there, and now that he really just focuses on football, you can only imagine what that's going to be when you get a year-round program here, just focusing on that alone.
All right, two more left. We'll start with Jack here on the front row. We'll finish the call.
Hey, Kalen, I'm curious, one of the guys you added from the JUCO ranks, Cavante Henry, just what did you kind of see with him, and how quickly do you think he can get embedded maybe in that bandit room along the defensive line?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Cavante was a guy that, again, knew him out of high school, and so knew what he was all about. Just went to a junior college that we were very well aware of. And again, all these guys, you're looking at the background, talking with people and understanding the character and really who these guys are, and again, having a starting point with Cavante and knowing what his frame looked like, and then following through and seeing the film that he's put out, and just the explosiveness he can bring with the big body off the edge, his get off, and just does so many things well. Great person, great kid, not a kid, great young man. And so just really excited about what he will do and add to that room. Got some experience, with football beyond the high school years as well.
All right, great stuff, Chase. Thank you. That's not the complete Q&A, but most of it with Coach DeBoer. We had played the opening comments that he had yesterday and wanted you to hear some of the questions that he took on recruiting because this is a good class. Lacking a little bit in-state, no doubt about it, but like he said, you get in late, you come in January, you're trying to build those relationships, but the bottom line is getting good football players in, regardless of where they come from. All right, it is 10:29. We'll take a timeout, come back with Brett Pritchard with the Auburn Report next, right here on the Gary Harris Show.
365, 24/7. You'll find road and utility crews, tow truck, law enforcement, and first responders working along Alabama's roadway.
We're making improvements and helping our communities stay connected.
We're working hard to make sure you're safe on the road. Now we need your help to make sure we're safe too.
Alabama's move over law requires you to move over a lane when you see flashing lights on the road.
Tinsel Trail. For more information, visit TTownTinsel.com. I can't wait. Santa, can you?
Ho, ho, ho! You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:32. Welcome back in to the Gary Harris Show, and it's time for the Auburn Report with Brett Pritchard from the Auburn Blitz, also the Alabama High School Athletic Association Radio Network. We'll talk Super 7 as well. Good morning, Brett. How you doing?
I'm good, Gary. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. You, I guess you're in Birmingham, obviously.
I am in the press box right now.
All right, we're going to get to some of those games. Let's start with the Iron Bowl, 28-14 Alabama. It was one of those games where I guess, if you're an Alabama fan, you probably say, Alabama should have won by more. If you're an Auburn fan, you look at all those opportunities in the first half when you had forced 3 turnovers and only had 6 points. So, how that is always based on your perspective. But what did you see in that game?
Really just saw an opportunity wasted by Auburn there in the first half. Really, again, I think you said it, Alabama, you could have looked at it 2 different ways. Alabama, if they don't turn the ball over like they did, it could have been worse. And then you could have looked at it like from the Auburn perspective, if you take advantage of the turnovers, you could have won the football game. So, it just boils down to, I think, a microcosm of really the season for Auburn. Although the defense probably didn't play their best game, they still gave Auburn a chance to win the game, and that's really how they've been all year long. Offense just couldn't muster the points when they needed to. I mean, you look at getting down there on the 1-yard line right there before the end of the half, you got to score touchdowns, and couldn't get in, and that kind of was the theme, and just didn't take advantage in some bad play calls. There's a halfback pass there that really, after you just got another turnover from Alabama and you're driving the football, and really just don't understand the play call, and so that's kind of been the deal. Auburn, I think, averaged 16 or 17 points a game in SEC play, and that's not going to cut it. That's not going to win you very many football games in it, and that's the result that Auburn's had this year. But I didn't think Auburn played bad in the football game. I think they again had their opportunities, and Jalen Milroe did what Jalen Milroe's done to a bunch of people. Had a really, really good game on the ground, running the football, and made passes when he needed to. And that was the difference in the game, his 3 touchdowns.
All right, when you look at Auburn, and we understand in this state, whether you're an Alabama or you're an Auburn fan, you understand Auburn has the resources, it has the facilities, it has everything in place to be a top-tier football program in the SEC. But the reality is 4 straight losing seasons now. And we'll get to recruiting in a moment because certainly that's on the uptick. I get it. But just the struggle with that reality and the fact that at some point, the results are going to have to get better or Hugh Freeze won't be the coach at Auburn anymore, right? I mean, you've got to turn the corner at some point and start getting the results on the field that the program should expect and warrant based on everything that's in place there at Auburn.
No, you're exactly right. I think that's the sentiment for everybody, especially all Auburn fans, is that, the good thing, the difference right now between Hugh Freeze and Brian Harsin is that Hugh Freeze is recruiting at a very high rate, and he's got Auburn competitive and at the top of the list. And you look at it from a standpoint of Brian Harsin, there was no hope. You know, the results weren't on the field, and the recruiting wasn't there either, so you didn't really have anything to hang your hat on. But Hugh Freeze is. But I think you're in year 3 coming up, and it is imperative that you have results on the field, because if you don't start winning football games, then you're going to stop getting the recruits to buy in to come in. So that, you know, it kind of all goes hand in hand. So it's time to see some results on the field. And Gary, I know you can break down seasons all the way from what you didn't do to what you did do. But Auburn easily could have won 4 more ball games. And when I say that, I mean the Missouri game, Auburn had a lead in the 4th quarter. Oklahoma game, Auburn had a lead in the 4th quarter. Cal game was a 1-possession game. You turned the ball over 5 times. Vanderbilt, you just played terrible at home. I mean, it wasn't because Diego Pavia came in and lit the world on fire. It was probably one of his worst games of the year. It wasn't like the Diego Pavia that came in with New Mexico State the year before and just really torched Auburn.
Right.
Auburn had 4 legit chances to win 9 games, Gary. And if you want to throw the Arkansas game in there, which was a 10-point game, Auburn turned the ball over 5 times in that game.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, you're looking at a 9 to 10. Now, they're not always going to bounce your way. I mean, you can say the same thing for Texas A&M. Well, you could have lost another game because you went to overtime and all that. That's true. But legitimately, you gave away 3 to 4 games. And you're talking about a whole different deal right now. You're talking about 9 wins, possibly 10. And if Auburn's sitting at 10 wins, you're talking about a playoff spot. I mean, that's how close it was, really. But this offense could not get it done this year. And I think Jarquez Hunter was underutilized. I think most Auburn fans feel that way. Peyton Thorne's numbers on paper look fine. But it was key moments in games where bad decisions were made that ended up costing Auburn in a lot of those 1-possession games. So you're not really as far away as it may say on the record. But you got to start getting those things to go in your direction, or you're right. You're going to have to move on and move in another direction.
Yeah, you make some great points. And again, the recruiting, when you look at the top 10 from the various recruiting services, I mean, you see Oregon, you see Georgia, you see Ohio State, you see Alabama, you see Texas, you see Tennessee. These are playoff teams. You're on the cusp. Same thing, with Michigan and LSU and A&M, and then you see Auburn. So that's like you said, that's the key. Hey, listen, I understand you can coach them up. You and I both know there are coaches that do a great job of that, but ultimately you got to have the Jimmies and the Joes. You got to have the top tier talent, and Auburn is acquiring that talent based on these recruiting rankings.
They are. I mean, you just listed every one of them. I mean, Texas, Alabama, Oregon, Georgia, Ohio State, all in the playoff mix. And there's Auburn at 6, according to 24/7. I mean, the difference is they're getting it done on the field, and right now Auburn's not. And again, you go into year 3 with Hugh Freeze, and Auburn is still able to maintain, an elite ranking team-wise in recruiting with these teams that are in the playoff talk. And so Auburn, again, is a few plays away from even being in the playoff talk this year, but they didn't get it done. So I know that sounds like a loser mentality, but you got to kind of look at it that way. You got to find the silver lining and say, look, we're not as far away as our record says. So you look at the top 10, and it's just littered with SEC teams. I mean, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Florida, all in the top 10, 11 in recruiting here in the country. And so you are in the most brutal conference. Everybody knows that. And you got to continue to recruit at an elite level. And I think now moving into year 3 with Hugh Freeze, you can't say that you don't have the roster any longer to compete with the big boys, because now you have been able to stockpile a couple of really good recruiting classes. And I thought our freshmen, especially on the defensive side of the football, made some huge strides, and I thought you saw improvement week to week. And Auburn plays a ton of freshmen on the defensive side, and they got a top 15 defense in the country. So I've been very impressed with what DJ Durkin and that staff on that side did. So they got some elite defenders in this class. It's one of the better defensive back classes I can remember Auburn getting.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to add to that. You're going to add to that linebacking core. You're going to add to that defensive line with guys like Jared Smith from Thompson High School, who's an elite pass rusher. So I mean, the defensive side of the ball has a chance to be even better next year than it was this year. But Auburn's just got to cure the offensive ills, Gary. And you and I have said this 1,000 times on your show. Quarterback play dictates so much on offense, and Auburn's got to get the quarterback position right going into next season.
Brett Pritchett with us for the Auburn Report. All right, Auburn hoops riding high. Even with the loss at Duke, this has been a great start for this team. First, let's focus on Auburn, then we'll focus on the SEC. But, going into Cameron Indoor is never going to be easy. Good game. Auburn's first loss of the season.
Yeah, you know what you're getting. I don't think an SEC team's won in there since the 70s. I think that was the stat that they showed, and of course you see why. I mean, it is probably the most difficult place to play in the country. And, Auburn was in that basketball game to the end and got out to a great start. I think they were out to a 13-2 start. Miles Kelly was really shooting the ball well from outside and kind of took the crowd out of it. But you knew Duke was going to make a run and get back into it. And, I thought what killed Auburn in that game was poor defense on the perimeter in the first half. And, kid comes really off the bench and hasn't even played that much this year and scored 18 points. And didn't score in the second half, but he already did the damage he needed to do there in the first half. And Auburn really never recovered from that. They felt like they were fighting uphill the rest of the game. And in an environment like that, it's going to be doubly tough. But I thought Auburn showed a lot of grit and fight to come back. And they had several opportunities there with 5 minutes or so to go in the game to tie it or take the lead. They just could never get it to fall. So this is a gritty team. If you can go into Cameron Indoor and have a chance to win against a really good Duke team, I mean, let's be honest, Duke's a couple of plays away against some really good basketball teams from being undefeated themselves. So nothing to hang your head down about. You're not going to go undefeated in basketball. Auburn has played a tremendously tough schedule to this point. It's going to continue to be tough until you get into SEC play, and then it's going to stay tough when you get to SEC play. I think, passing the test to this point, beating teams like Iowa State and North Carolina and Houston, and winning the Maui Invitational, being the third team in SEC history to win that tournament. You've already done some really big things. Now you've got Richmond coming up on Sunday, and then you got Ohio State. The following Saturday in Atlanta at the Holiday Hoops-Giving, and then you'll finish out with Georgia State, Purdue at the end of December before you head into SEC play. So still three really good basketball teams left ahead of Auburn before they get into SEC play.
For the SEC and this SEC-ACC challenge, Auburn lost at Duke and Kentucky lost at Clemson. Ironically, the two highest-rated teams in the conference, but the other 14 teams won. Greg Sankey said a few years ago he wanted to get, he brought someone in to get in charge of basketball, and it is what it is. It's not a complete barometer of things, but when you go head-to-head with the ACC and you win 14 out of 16 games, I think that's a statement for the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, and there's no question. I think if Clemson plays in Rupp, they lose, and I think if Duke comes to Auburn, they lose. I think I would love to see that reverse next year. I'd love for Duke to come to Auburn next year. And you thought it was a tough ticket in Cameron Indoor. Man, and you get Duke to come to Auburn next year, you're going to look at the same situation. So, this conference has turned basketball on its ear. This is not even the same conference that it was even 8 to 10 years ago. There's multiple teams in this league that can make deep runs in March. And, every game, and especially with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, you just made the schedule even tougher. So it's not just Kentucky, carrying the banner for SEC basketball anymore. I think Auburn and Alabama are the top two teams in this league, and I think Tennessee's a close second behind those two teams. And then, of course, Kentucky is really off to a great start with a new coach. And, I think Calipari will build Arkansas back. And then you look at what South Carolina's been able to do the last couple of years. And Florida played for an SEC tournament championship this past year against Auburn. Ole Miss has gotten better. Mississippi State's a really good basketball team that's not getting a lot of talk right now. So we just keep going. Every single night in this league, you better come ready to play or you could lose.
All right, let's get to the AHSAA Super 7 kicked off Wednesday night. First, just your thoughts with Jordan Hare and Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium having to be out of the mix now because of the college football playoff. And I know they're looking at Mobile, and that's a great facility there at South Alabama and a great facility in Montgomery. But to me, with Protective Stadium being what it is, a little bit smaller than Bryant-Denny and Jordan Hare and the central location of Birmingham, I'd love to just see it remain in Birmingham every year. I think it's perfect. Any thought process there of where they're going to go with these games? Is there any talk that because it looks just like such a great venue for high school football there that it might remain just in Birmingham, or are they still talking about taking it around the state?
Yeah, I think they're still weighing all the options. I think there's some bids that have come in, and there's things that are going to be considered by the Central Board of Control. But we said it on the broadcast yesterday, Gary. We don't have a dog in the fight with the network, but for the most part, this is a great place for these championship games. I mean, centrally located, the basketball championships are played right up here in Legacy Arena. It just feels like the right place for this, and the stadium's not so daunting that it just engulfs the fans and it doesn't look like anybody's here. I mean, it fits. I enjoyed Auburn and Alabama as much as anybody, Gary. I think that was a cool opportunity for the schools and the kids to go and perform and compete in those venues, but the playoffs are going to dictate that they can't do that any longer. So I think now is a great opportunity to see the HSA make a decision on where they want these championships moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if Birmingham wins out and keeps it here. I don't know what the terms of the contract would be. There is no contract really on that right now. That's why they're accepting of the bids, but kind of make it tough going from one part of the state to the other if it were to be held in Huntsville or held in Mobile. That's extreme travel for the other end of the state on that particular year. So Birmingham's a lot more manageable. Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Of course, we got Tuscaloosa Academy playing today, 3 years after going over from AISA, trying to win a Class 2A state championship in AHSAA. But I want to ask you about, did you get to do the 1A game yesterday? I did not. I was on the sideline for that game. I had another crew doing that game for us. I did the 5A game last night between Moody and Montgomery Catholic. Okay, that was a good game. Good comeback by Moody. Fell short. I want to ask you, though, about Jaquez Wilkes, because I had seen him a little bit when Wadley came over here to play Berry up in Fayette County. And you see 6'4", 222 running back. I know he's a great defensive player as well. You get Derrick Henry vibes here. Then he goes for 300-plus and 5 touchdowns yesterday. And Wadley, of course, a dynamic 1A team. But they beat Maplesville, which has a great small school football tradition. Can this kid, he's a junior, can he play running back on the next level? I know everybody wanted to move Derrick Henry to defense too. What did you see from this dynamic athlete? You just had the conversation that they had on the air yesterday about everybody wanting to move Derrick Henry to defense and not give him a chance to play offense. And look, I think he can do it. I mean, I do. I think, he plays in small classification football, so he's a man amongst boys. I hate to say it that way, but that's what it looks like. And, Maplesville, I thought, played well. It's just, you have a beast back there running the football. And it's like every play, if you stop him for 5 yards, you feel like you had a win. And, had 200 and something yards rushing in the first half. Ended up with over 300 yards rushing and could have had more. I mean, let's be honest, they could have fed him the ball some more, and there at the end of the game, they could have handed it to him instead of, just kind of running the clock out. But, on defense, had over 10 tackles. He's just an all-around player. He's a player that everybody's going to want. I think he's got 10 SEC offers already, and he was just a junior, so he'll have a chance to get Wadley back next year. They've got another complimentary running back that I think would be a starter for most anybody else out there, and they kind of a dual back set back there, and they run a lot of wishbone. But it's Jaquez Wilkes, when you have a player like him, you're going to utilize him, and that's what Wadley did. And I think he can do whatever he sets his mind to, Gary. I'll be honest with you. All right, 2A, 4A, 6A today. The 2A
Is it 2A or 4? What? Yeah, obviously 2A. 4A is about to crank up, yeah, because we got Tuscaloosa Academy at the 2A at 3, right. And I'll have crew over there for that one. But tonight ought to be a really good one to wrap it up with the 6A Parker there in Birmingham, right. Loaded roster, and we know what Saraland's got. That ought to be a heck of a football game tonight.
Well, you're just going to have D1 talent all over the field. I mean, you look over at Parker and Jordan Crawford, Neem Alford. I can go down the list with other guys, and you go over on the Saraland side, and you have KJ Lacey's, Texas signee, and then you got Antonio Coleman on the defensive front. I mean, you just got to have great players on both sides of the ball, similar to what you had last night in the 5A championship game. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be really cold tonight here at Protective Stadium, but it's going to be a great football game. 2 great programs. You know, everybody kind of starred Parker at the beginning of the year with this roster, and everybody said, look, wouldn't be surprised if they're in Birmingham playing for a state title, and then Saraland's right back here playing again. They fell a yard short last year to Clay Saltville, but here they are playing for another state title, and I know KJ Lacey probably wakes up every day thinking about falling a yard short of winning that game, and he's going to have a chance to get Saraland back over the hump tonight.
Indeed. All right, great stuff as always, Brett. We appreciate it, and enjoy the ball games. And like you said, it's football weather finally here in Alabama. It's going to be chilly over there for sure. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. All
right, 10:52, and we're going to come back and wrap it up. Get you ready for T-Town Sports Daily right after this.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we're going to do Parlay Picks presented by Brian Harden Construction. We'll combine all the championship games. We'll take your phone calls. We'll talk to Lee Sterling. We'll talk to Brent Beard. And we're going to take your phone calls starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports.
To start your free online visit and find ED treatment at up to 95% off brand name prices, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather cold and dry today. The sky sunny, the high 43. Another freeze tonight, clear with the low at 25. Tomorrow, partly to mostly sunny, the high 52. Clouds move in Sunday, a chance of rain by afternoon, the high 56. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 34 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
This week's Tide 100.9 FM half price seize the deal offer is for Sterling Slices and Sweet Shop in the University Mall Food Court in Tuscaloosa. They offer pizza by the slice, whole pizzas, pasta, salads, desserts, frozen or dried candy, ice cream, and more. The Sterling Slices and Sweet Shop sees the deal $25 in food for $12.50. It's available now at Seize the Deal Sterling Slices and Sweets. That is quite a bargain, and take advantage of that for sure. All right, I didn't even mention, Chase, we had a heck of a Thursday night football game last night. Lions beat the Packers 34-31. Alabama guys all over the field. Gibbs, Jacobs, Branch, Arnold, McKinney. Great football game. Lions win again. That's 11 in a row for the Detroit Lions. And before we close it out, speaking of great things at restaurants, next week, Dinner with Santa. Wednesday, December the 11th from 5 to 7 p.m. Come dine and enjoy a visit with our special guest from the North Pole. That's at Billy's Sports Grill in downtown Northport. Dinner with Santa, Wednesday, December 11th from 5 to 7 p.m. Bring the kids. It is a festive atmosphere. I was in there for lunch yesterday. Huge tree, Christmas lights everywhere, and Dinner with Santa next Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. at Billy's Sports Grill in downtown Northport. All right, that's going to do it for the TGIF edition of the Gary Harris Show. We got T-Town Sports Daily coming up next at 11 a.m. For Chase Brumfield, I'm Gary Harris. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the conference championship games. We'll talk to you again on Monday.